Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Goodcast Show. So Muslims, they don't date, we marry. That's the mantra of my guest today from banker. He decided to change his love for money to the love of matrimony by setting up his own Muslim matchmaking website called muzzmatch.com that is now known as Muzz app. An app that he built, by the way, on his own, in his room, apparently.
Yeah, in my bedroom.
My bedroom, yeah. Now, from doing every job in the company, placing cards on windscreens, Muzz now today has over 12 million subscribers across 190 countries. And guess this, it has inspired over 500,000 marriages and I'm guessing about 1 million children. So my goodness. Yeah. Today, we are here to discuss Muzz, the app, and as well as online dating from a Muslim perspective with none other than founder and CEO of Muzz, Mr. Shazad Yunus. How are you, sir?
Perfect, thank you. What an intro that was.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very well. Thank you for having me on your show.
No worries, man. Thanks for coming. This is the first time we're having a guest from Europe, so welcome to
wow.
Malaysia.
Okay, yeah. We travel far for this.
Exactly.
You're world famous now.
World famous.
This is it.
I had to come for this show.
Exactly. You were worth the effort. Trust me. And
Nothing virtual.
You even got a T-shirt out of it.
Yeah,
That's the good thing.
Check it out.
See, we look after our hosts.
Yes,
always.
yes. Thank you very much for the T-shirt. Yeah. Now, you were from the banking line.
Yes.
You're an investment manager from way back when.
Yeah.
So as I said before, what made you convert your love for money to love of Muslim matrimony?
Oh, I was trying to find some depth and meaning to my life. Like you said, I was an investment banker. I was a trader at Morgan Stanley for 9 years.
Morgan Stanley?
Yeah,
wow.
Proper bank, We don't mess about here. I enjoyed it. But then I was questioning my life decisions and I was thinking, what am I doing here? And it sounds really cheesy, but and a bit morbid. I was thinking, if I died tomorrow, what do I have to show for it? And literally, I was getting rich people richer. And I thought, there's got to be more to life than this. I wanted to leave some sort of legacy. And then had the idea for this, built it, launched it. And, we're 10 years later, I've been working on this 10 years full time. We're a team now, about 150 people.
Wow.
It's a big team, you said 12 million. I think we're on 13 million now, which is
13
crazy.
million.
13 million members around the world. Malaysia and Indonesia is a super interesting part. I'm sure we'll talk about that, of our journey. And yeah, 500,000 people around the world. I've had friends, I've had family members find their partner on Muzz. It's really changed a lot of people's lives. And, our mission, transforming how Muslims meet and marry. I think we've had probably more impact than anyone. For us, it sounds cheesy, but we're just getting started.
Nice, well done. And it's very exciting. And I love the concept of the app, which we will get into. But right before that, this app has become a success, definitely, right? As you mentioned, you have 30 million subscribers, inspired over 500,000 marriages and all that. But most successful ventures start from a founder identifying a gap in the market, right? A problem to solve. So what were the problems that you saw in the Muslim online matchmaking apps that you thought that you could answer with Muzz?
Good question. So, actually, and some people ask, how did you arrive at Muzz as a business, etc. And I say it was a series of happy accidents. And what do I mean by that?
Okay.
So literally 2011, I was in London, right? I'm a Muslim in London. We're a minority, there's more non-Muslims there. And all of my friends would say how hard it is to find a partner. We're all given pressure, we're under pressure, got to get married, you've got to find a wife, etc. But it's really hard to find someone. And this is the London professional scene, so this is as good as it gets. And I remember just looking at what was out there and thinking, my God, these websites are so cringe. We had websites asking, what's your hair color, eye color, and how much do you weigh? And how much do you earn? Mm-hmm. And I was like, my God, what are we in the 1980s here? This is embarrassing. And so I built a website, which literally, I only built it because I thought even I could do better than that. And it was a side project. I did a few events, but I didn't take it seriously. I was just still doing my job, my banking job. That was my full-time thing. But then fast forward, 2013, 2014, and it sounds weird to say, it's 10 years ago, but smartphones and apps started becoming a thing. And I still remember the guys that work in my team. I think it was Tinder. I can't remember what app it was, but they were showing me, look, Shaz, we just matched with this girl and we're chatting. And 3 guys talking to one girl, right? Bankers, they're all the same. But literally, and it blew my mind.
Sluts,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, literally. But it blew my mind that literally you could, on an app, connect with a stranger and start talking. And then just something clicked where I thought, oh my God, I was looking at my website thinking, hold up, finding a partner, it's not a website, it's an app. It's such a personal thing. And probably our most personal devices now are our phones, more than ever. And that once that kind of clicked in my head, I thought, if I don't do this thing, somebody else will do it and I'll just regret it. And that was, every day was in my mind. And I thought, I've got to get out of here. I've just got to give this thing a go. So that was kind of the trigger, and for me, that was enough to say, right, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to learn how to build apps. You know, like you said, literally was from my bedroom. I just learned. I sat there. I did a few tutorials, and then I started learning how do I build an Apple app? How do I build an Android app? And I did the apps. I designed it's kind of interesting. I've still got the Word document. I designed the app in Microsoft Word because I didn't know how to use a design software. So it's like you just got to do whatever you got to do. And I've still got that Word document, and it's terrible, but it works.
But in terms of because I've heard you on other interviews, you talking about problems that you saw, right? Besides the fact that the apps were cringe, what are your contemporaries or people who were back then?
Yes.
What were they doing wrong?
So if I look at, here's what I always think, and somebody asked me this earlier. Unfortunately, I think a lot of offerings, probably less so now, but generally a lot of offerings for the Muslim audience were pretty rubbish quality. Like, I don't know why, but we didn't have, from what I could see, we didn't have any kind of standout high quality products and apps that we could be proud of. It was all terrible design, buggy as hell. No one wanted to use it. And I actually thought the opposite. I thought, my God, if we build something, I want it to be something where we set the bar, where like, that's what a Muslim product looks like, especially a digital product. And even now, it's so good to see people saying they really love our design and the attention we have. You know, even when you sign up to the app, you'll see this kind of nice animations as you transition from screen to screen. And like, that takes effort. It takes effort to make it feel like that and work like that. But for us, it's just a sign of where we want to set the bar. What's good is now other people are copying us. So other Muslim apps have turned up, ripping us off almost word for word. I'm fine, it comes with the territory. But for me, it was using technology in a modern way. First thing was also making it free. Every single app out there, or it wasn't even any apps, we were the first, but every website out there, it was pay to play. So the classic was, oh, here are 10 girls who've liked you. Oh, but you want to message them? Sorry, you've got to start paying now. And I was like, no, I don't want that. One of our core principles as a business, even now, we're 10 years old, is that you should always be able to match with someone, chat to them, get married, and leave completely free. You should never be forced to pay for anything. What that means, and the onus is on us as a business, means anything that we offer that we're like, hey, here's a feature, why don't you buy this or buy that? It means we have to really prove to you there's value in this feature, and it's optional. We're not doing the classic paywall that, oh, hey, you want to talk to this girl? Sorry, you got to pay. So that really changed your mindset, even as a business, the founder, and the way you build your product. You've got to really provide extra value and almost educate your users of why that's useful. Where they're like, yeah, I feel it's worth buying that thing. It'll speed up my search. It'll give me X, Y, Z. So change your mindset. And I think it makes you build a better product. And remember, as you know, they always say, the quickest way to compete is to offer it for free. Undercut them on price. The app was completely free. It was impossible to buy anything for 2 years. And it was only when we applied to Y Combinator, so they're an accelerator out in Silicon Valley, which I'm sure we'll talk about. They're the most prestigious. The Airbnb, Dropbox, Stripe, they're behind those guys, right? These guys are connected. Thankfully, we were the first Muslim-centric startup ever to be backed by them. And actually, the first time we applied, they flew us out to San Francisco, did a 10-minute interview. They just do 10-minute interviews, that's it. So they fly you out for 10 minutes, that's it. And they loved us, and they just said, look, you need to be making revenue. So I was like, fine. Went back to London, started making revenue. Came back, the next batch, so it was like 3 months later, straightforward. We interviewed again, and they said, yep, done, you're in. So, and I actually think that was a good thing because it forced us to offer products that we think customers would pay for. And then flip side, as a business, that money can go straight into the business in terms of helping us grow.
Now, the interesting thing about Muzz as an app is that you have another mantra whereby you say that this is an app where your objective is that you want people to sign up and then eventually leave your app, right? Totally. While every other app that is trying to hold us there forever, you want us to leave. Of course, the idea being that once you get on Muzz, you find your partner and then you don't need to be there, you leave, right? So how do you tailor the app experience or the app features to achieve this outcome?
So I actually think it's being honest with your customers of what you're about. So you're dead right. Conventional dating apps, to be honest, they're heavily gamified. It's more of a game than a dating app. It's almost a game. By the way, you can chat to people, right? For us, completely different. We're unashamedly trying to solve the problem. We're unashamedly, how do I help you as a Muslim? If you're serious, how do I help you get married? How do I help you get off our platform? The best thing that can ever happen to us, or for you, is you get off, get married. You'll end up telling someone, by the way, I met my wife on Muzz. And even now, we're 10 years old, more than half of our customers, they come organically. They're coming word of mouth. Someone's told them, they heard about Muzz, oh, it worked for my friend, etc. That's how they find us. Trust me, it's the best way you ever build a business, by word of mouth. If you're a company where you're having to pay for every single customer, every lead, you'll be broke. It's just not worth it, right? Yeah. So for us, and I always say, there's 2 billion Muslims out there, right? I'm not going to run out of customers. All I need to do is make sure enough Muslims out there know that this works, sees it works, so they see real life evidence that this works, and use it, right? So for my motto is, if you are single and you're looking, I want to make sure you're on Muzz. And it's kind of weird, even though I'm in the tech space, but I say that, and yet I still say I don't think online is the best way to find the best way you can find a partner. I think there are other means that are better, but then online has a very valid and important role. I still say in real life, friends, family, work networks, you can't beat it. Literally can't beat it, because I think it's less forced. I think it's more natural, and equally, they're not a stranger, right? There's someone along the chain that can vouch for this person. Online, the beauty of online, your pool is huge. You have a lot more choice. You can be a lot more specific about what you want. However, the challenges right, you got to do your homework. You got to, if you're meeting a guy, right, fine, right, who is this guy? Who are his friends? Who's his family? Who do you speak to? Like, you got to make sure you do your homework. So it comes with its own challenges. So, even though I still say, and especially for Muslims, I think apps and online have a massive role to play, because, more for Muslims, our social life is very segregated, to be honest, right? You as a guy, how often are you going to interact or meet a Muslim girl that isn't friends or family, right? Rarely. So for a lot of people, they're like, well, great, how on earth am I going to meet a girl, right? And that's where online comes into play.
Now, interestingly enough, I used to be a user of dating apps way back when. Not now, I'm married, and happily married. With
if we find you on any profiles,
you may find me on Muzz. I had to be on
research.
Research, yeah. Now, but the thing is that one of the biggest critiques when it comes to the online dating scene is fake accounts.
Yes.
Right? But you guys are interesting. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you guys have blocked over 500,000 accounts. Mad. So what are the techniques or the criteria that you employ to validate somebody's profile?
So good question. Look, I was talking about this with someone earlier today. The bigger you get, the more you're a target for scammers, for fake accounts, for people who want to misuse your service, abuse your service, etc. And remember, it sounds crazy that professional organizations literally geared towards scamming people. And there's so many different names for different types of scams. There's one called pig butchering, which is a crazy scam whereby you build up an emotional relationship with someone online so they feel comfortable, and then you start extracting money out of them. And by then, you've fattened the pig, basically. And it's crazy. Okay. So, there's so many different scams. For us, it was actually interesting. When I first built the app, in version 1, we forced everyone to do a selfie verification. It wasn't that sophisticated, but it would lock on your front camera and you'd have to take a photo. And then because I was I was customer support back then, I would compare that selfie with the photo you gave me and say, do I think it's the same person? So that was our first check that we used to do. Obviously, email and phone number were also 2 of them. Now we're a lot more sophisticated, so we do all of that. And even the selfie, we do a bunch of stuff to say, is that a real selfie? Is it a fake? Could you be wearing a mask? We've got a whole load of smart... everyone says AI, but AI machine learning to try and detect all of that, and it's pretty accurate. So that's number 1. For email, phone numbers there, we do a bunch of checks on the device as well. So Google and Apple have various ways to classify devices as potentially fraud or real. So we do that. Is your device real? Is it a good quality device, if you will? And then we have a whole bunch of other metrics, which I don't want to disclose here, that we combine in total to say, is there something dodgy about this person? So we have all those initial checks. Then the second stage is you have real customers, especially women, they report any weirdness, inappropriate activity, etc. very quickly, which is great for us, right? Because then our team, we have a 30-strong community team, all female team, who all day long are going through reports, are going through some of the automated flagging to say, is there something dodgy about this guy? And then their instructions, even from me and us as a company, is, I don't care if this member's paying us or not. If someone breaks all these things, we block them and remove them. And like you said, we're at 600,000 people, we've blocked and removed. Mostly men. For either being a scammer or being inappropriate or whatever, right? Because we live by reputation. And I don't pretend, I never have, Muzz is perfect, like you'll never, not at all. I'm always like, unfortunately, you've got real people, good and bad, right? And you can have, I realize from doing this for 10 years, when you bring a man and woman together, so many things can happen. It can get really messy, right? And in the early days, I was probably naive to how messy that could get. Now, obviously, I see everything, to be honest. So I think for us, I'm very realistic that, sometimes there are inappropriate men and women, to be honest, not just men, but mostly men, inappropriate. And so for us, we do a good job at detecting it, both automated and manual, and then removing people, either giving them a warning, giving them a temporary block, or a permanent ban. And then we do a whole load of stuff behind the scenes to make sure they don't come back. Okay. Nothing's foolproof. It's cat and mouse, and the difficulty is you've got all these checks, but you're stuck within the constraints of what Apple and Google allow as well. So it's complicated, but I think we do a better job. I think we do a better job to a better level of accuracy than most platforms out there.
Okay, fantastic. I mean, that's good to know, because that's the key problem I think a lot of people have.
And actually, sorry, even one more bit I can throw in there. So we added, probably about a year ago, just to add a further level of security, ID verification. So what that means is you supply your passport, your driving license, whatever, your ID document, your government documents. We'll ensure that the age you put on your profile is your actual age and that your document's valid.
Wow.
So that's the next level of checks. We're literally talking now internally, do we make this mandatory for everyone? Which will be brutal for us as a business, but I think sets a tone of us as a serious app.
Yeah, definitely. It's important.
And no one's doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the direction of travel is that more and more, I think especially dating apps, let's say, will start having mandatory document checks.
Definitely, you have to. You have to. And in fact, online, when I was reading some of the comments about other dating apps as well, this is a common thing across all.
Huge.
Huge.
Like
so if you guys do it, the customer will feel so much safer.
Exactly. And for us, and like I say, we always remind ourselves, and it sounds cheesy as a company, to the customers first, and we have in our core principles, our goal is we want the customer to get married and leave. So anything we design has to be geared towards that. How do I help you as a guy or a girl have a good quality, have a good match, have a good quality conversation, and then hopefully then leave Muzz. Find your partner and leave. That's our goal.
Now, I guess it's best to get it from you, since you are the owner of this company, and I guess to get some tips for Malaysian users, Muslim Malaysians who hopefully will sign up for this app once they see this interview, and who are probably already in it, and there are a few. Now, based on your experience, what are the features of the more successful profiles on Muzz that eventually end up meeting someone?
Yes. It's actually, it's quite simple. And that's the shocking thing about this, right? So number one, I think for people who are serious, number one, they've got good photos in their profile, to be honest, which isn't rocket science, right? Guys, if you're posing in front of your car, don't. If you're not wearing a shirt, don't. Literally, I always say just put an actual shirt on that's ironed. Hopefully my t-shirt's ironed, but yeah, put a shirt on that's ironed, just look presentable and smile, and that's literally it. Yeah. Have some alone, some with your friends, so you don't look like a loser and a loner. Show that you have some personality.
Some social life.
Yeah, some social life. Maybe doing some sort of hobby. Great. Photos, okay, done. Second bit, really fill in your profile, right? One thing I'm really proud of at Muzz, and again, it's showing how we're different to casual dating apps and mainstream dating apps. Our profiles are very rich. We probably ask about 35 different bits of information, down to when are you looking to get married? How often do you pray? Do you drink? Do you smoke? Family background, education, all these things. We try to identify all the things that we think, if you're looking for a life partner, they would matter to you. Because I think if you're looking to casually date, do you care do you care about someone's education? Maybe not. Do you care about their ethnic background? Probably not. I don't know. But a lot of those things you don't really care about. Whereas if you're like, I'm looking to get married, you care about these things. So our profiles are very rich. Fill all that in. Then it's the famous bio, right? The free text area. Now, one thing I've noticed from people who find success is they make use of that. So we used to make it mandatory, and what we found was some people, because they were forced to think about stuff, they would just put gibberish in there. So we said, forget it, we'll make it optional. Either you fill it in properly or you don't fill it in at all. So I would fill it in. What would I put in there? The simplest thing you can do is actually putting some thought into, well, what am I looking for? Like, really put some thought. This is the kind of lady I'm after, if you're a guy. It's the kind of lady I'm after with these kind of qualities. But equally, this is why I'm a catch. These are my qualities. This is how mature I am. This is a bit about my family. These are the things important to me. It's not rocket science, right? The third thing I would say, or whatever, second thing, I don't know what number I'm on, but let's go with the third thing, right? That was the third thing, yeah. The third thing I would say. Rule of three. Yeah, rule of three, always rule of three. So let's end on this one. The third thing I would say, everyone you talk to, it's almost like kind of get to the point. And what do I mean by that? I always tell people, don't just use Muzz and talk aimlessly online for ages. Waste of time, waste of your time and theirs. Don't do it. What you should do is talk with a bit of purpose. Now, it doesn't mean you should be super dry and have no personality. Like, you can still have a laugh and be fun and gauge each other's personality. I think that's good. But what you're trying to do, and this is what I would suggest, especially as a man, let's say as a man, lead the conversation in a good way. And what I mean is, ask the basic things, show that you're serious to the girl, and then say, hey, like, either do you fancy going on a video call or even a voice call or grabbing a coffee? Like, get to that point quite quickly. Because once you, especially a video call or especially a coffee, in 5 minutes, you'll know, is this girl potentially for me or not? In 5 minutes. You don't need anything longer than that. You'll know, do I want to spend more time with this person? Do I want to even get to know them anymore? Or actually not, I'm not remotely attracted. And remember, especially as Muslims, attraction is important. It's a pathetic thing. there was a prophetic example where somebody wanted to marry a lady and he was so pious, he said, I'll just marry her. Like, if you guys say it, I'll just marry her. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, no, go look at her face. Like, go and, he said to him twice, I think, go and look at her face. It's important. Like, attraction is important. Yeah. So you'll meet someone, you do a video call, you'll gauge, am I attracted to this person? And then hopefully that's a yes. And then it's hopefully, am I attracted to their personality? The way they talk. Are they patient? Are they rude? Are they whatever? All these things come across. And I think you'll know quite quickly. Then I'll break your rule of 3, you go to number 4. But I think it's the last bit. Let's say you're talking to a few people. If you're like, actually, I think there's something here. Like I always say, if you think there's something there, tell them. Say, you know what? I'm quite interested in you. I'd like to talk to you more. And just so you know, I'm not going to talk to anyone else. So make it super clear. And hopefully she says the same back to you. That actually, yeah, I'm quite enjoying this. Me the same. So then you know, right, I'm not going to get distracted by anyone else. You both hopefully won't be suspicious of, oh, is he talking to another girl right now? Not like you're in. Give the attention. Take it from there. You'll find success. And I think the people who've done that, they've done all of that. And hopefully, well, actually, we've seen quite quickly, they involve the family, they involve parents, and they get things moving. That's the formula. It's not rocket science. A lot of people, unfortunately, deviate from different bits of that.
Now, just to build on that part where you talked about the entire visual aspect, right? We are all, I mean, we are physical beings, right? Definitely, right? But the thing about Muzz is it has a feature where you can blur your photos.
Yes.
And I have seen in a documentary you did with Al Jazeera, where a few people actually mentioned that being like, how can I be attracted to someone whom I can't see? So why have that feature? Doesn't that impede the whole process?
Very good question. So this is the tricky part. There are a lot of, especially for women, right? I have to, so many features in Muzz, to be honest, we've built more catering towards women than men. Why? If I'm going to be crude, men will put up with anything, women won't, right? And I've seen it. When it comes to apps or whatever, I think women have a lot more to lose, to risk. They have a lot more pressure on them than men do, no question. I have to be realistic about that, not just idealistic. So really catering towards women who it's already a big step to go, I'm going to go online, or they feel the taboo or the cultural pressure. So for me, it's how do I make it easier for them? And more, how do I give them more control, more privacy, more modesty online? So that's the feature. What that means is, but to be honest, even now, I think only a quarter of women choose to, on average, choose to have their photos blurred. But what that means is when they are talking to a guy, all the things I mentioned about coming across serious as a guy, showing that you're serious, having a decent conversation, girls are very quick then to reveal their photos to you. But it just means they're saying to you, I'm going to let you see them, not to everybody else. And take it as a good thing, right? The flip side is, of course, and it's your right as a man, let's say in this situation, she might reveal her photos and you're not attracted, right? You might be like, she's not my cup of tea. So be it. Again, I always say, just be nice, right? Like, if everyone's nice to each other, this whole process becomes so much better. Just be nice. Thank you for sharing your photos. I didn't feel the attraction that I hoped. I hope everything goes well, and thank you very much, Like,
I can't imagine being in the seat of that girl when she gets that message. Because she knows what it means.
Of course, right? And it's brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah, it's
but
brutal.
What's worse? I always say
All's
what's worse.
fair in love and war.
Yeah, of course. And I think the worst thing is just to ghost her and just ignore her. That's way worse. And people will do that. We've got some, I'm sure we'll talk about it, right? Internally we call it Muzz 5, right? Okay. This is some big rethink of some big aspects of dating or marriage apps that I think are bad. That we're like, actually, we're not going to be about this anymore. We're going to solve it. We mentioned about mandatory ID verification. Same thing. We want to do stuff where no one's doing it, but we know it's actually the right thing for the customer. It's the right thing for the person searching.
The thing is, being someone who has used dating apps, right? When I was signing up for Muzz, and the part that really got me was when they asked me, how soon do I want to get married? Yeah. I was like, damn, this is serious, man.
Yeah, we don't mess about. And that's by design. That's like an intentional question. Yeah. And not just that, for example, we have that. We have little reminders in the app, keep it halal, right? We have all these little things, again, by design. What do I mean by that? It means that when somebody signs up, if you're not serious, you'll bail. You'll be like, you know what? This profile's too long, forget it. You're not serious. If you're looking to get married, we could probably double up that profile length and you will still do it. Because you're like, no, I'm looking to get married. I'll supply all these bits, fine. It's good at weeding out the people we're not interested in. Like I said, our goal on Muzz is we want to create this community of serious, like-minded people who are actually searching for a partner. If you ask any woman what they hate about dating apps, marriage apps, dating apps, whatever, the thing they hate is non-serious men, right? And that's almost, I would say, of anything I need to fix, that's the biggest thing I'm trying to fix. How do I solve this non-serious man problem? And it sounds man-bashing, but unfortunately that's the reality, right? Reality on dating apps, and marriage apps, whatever, women get a lot of attention. Men are vying for attention. That's reality. I can say whatever I want about anything, and we could design X, Y, Z, and we've got some changes trying to help on some of this, but that's just the reality of the situation. Women expect the man to make the first move. No question, we've seen it, especially Muslim women. They expect the man to make the move, but then for them, they're definitely in control of, all right, well, I have this interest. Who do I go for? Who do I start talking to? So it means for you as a man, of course, you got to step your game up. You know, it's important.
But isn't that going against our nature? I mean, men, we are hunter-gatherers. That's our pre-whatever software that we run on, right? Yeah. And like in my experience, I've always found women who go to, say, on Tinder and write in their bio, I'm looking for a partner. Yep. I found that a bit naive because this is Tinder. It's
in the wrong place.
Wrong place, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of that, when you talk about men not being serious, could it be that it's not that they're not serious, it's that they are playing the entire numbers game, right? Because that's our nature, and women should be more aware that that's how men will be, and so they need to be more ready.
I don't think you're probably right there. Men live in hope.
Yeah, we do.
Men live in hope, and they're always punching, right? They always aim more than probably what they can get. And that's fine. And you're probably right. And kind of all good, right? That's not an issue per se. The flip side is, and this is what we're conscious of as a platform, is, all right, well, do we encourage that behavior? Do we worsen that behavior? Or do we actually help both men and women in a situation? Like, for example, it doesn't help a woman to sign up to any app and then within hours get hundreds and hundreds of attention from hundreds of men. It doesn't help. And right now, to be honest, in the early days of Muzz especially, this would happen. One would sign up, and obviously we're like, right, here's someone new. We introduce them to people's apps, and they're searching, and the woman would come up. Within 2 hours, she's got 200 people liking her. 200. And you're like, what on earth does any one person do with that, right? It's not fair on so many people. So we're already doing a whole bunch of stuff now. How do we actually tackle some of that? How do we make sure a woman doesn't get too much attention? How do we make sure for a man, he's able to give the right levels of attention? One of the big things happening in we call it Muzz 5, which no app is doing, which actually I'm super proud of. I basically had a bit of a midlife crisis, right? My second one, where I was literally like, the business was going really well. The team, we just almost doubled the size of the team in the space of a year. We have it in everyone. With this team had kind of mini North Stars for a bunch of metrics. Everything good. I could have sat back and be like, great, everything's ticking along. Record month after record month, all good. And then I don't know, something was in me where I was like, I think we're hitting all these North Stars, which is great, but we're losing sight of where we're going here as a business. And what do I mean by that? There's this. I would say we're a product, unfortunately, where most people don't want to be single, right? They don't want to be using these products, full stop. No. And so you're I don't say forced, you're resorting to use an app that you don't like because you don't want to be on it in the first place. And then on top of that, I don't think we as a platform, and other dating apps definitely don't do enough to discourage bad behavior or bad, I say behavior, I actually mean bad, like user interaction. What do I mean? For example, us and other dating apps, they almost encourage you to have tons of conversations, right? Collect your matches. Match with 50 girls if you can. Who cares, right? It's good for the app because my metrics will be good. You're opening the app, you're messaging, you're sending more messages than ever. Great, this is all good for business. Yeah. Good for business, not good for you. It's not good for your mental health. It's not good for the girl's mental health. It doesn't lead to a good outcome because how on earth can any human navigate that many conversations fairly to anyone, right? You can't. So one of the big things that we're doing, and we're literally working on it now, and this is part of this Muzz 5 document, which I kind of, like over a weekend, just wrote out of what should our app actually be about. That hurts our business, but it's good for you. We're going to be limiting you to only be able to speak to 5 people, max, right? So imagine you're matching with people, fine, you're matching. Once you're at 5 people, sorry, you can't look at anyone else now. We're not even going to let you browse other profiles. You've got to end a conversation with someone if you want to carry on using the rest of the app. On top of that, you can't add another person into it. Deal with the 5 you've got. So it forces you to make a decision of either I care about these people or I don't, right? Number one. Number two, with these 5 people, let's say you're sending a message, you're a guy, or maybe a guy and a girl, whatever. You send a message and she doesn't reply in 7 days or 14 days, will arrive at the right number. Fine, the match will expire and it'll be gone. Because clearly, if no one replied, either side, then they're not serious and they don't like you. And what we saw from experience, especially women, they'd rather make no decision than make a decision. So let's say we matched. Rather than a woman saying, this guy's not my type, I don't really fancy talking, rather than saying sorry and end the conversation, no, they'll just ignore you, which is worse for everyone because the man's like, hey, And he probably sends the classic hey. He'll send hey 5 times, over 2 weeks. That's not helpful for anyone. I think one thing on apps, people need to know better where they stand, for better or worse. So these are just 2 things, and I mentioned around rolling out mandatory ID verification, which will cost us a lot of money as a business, but I'm like, it's the right thing to do because I'm convinced that's the direction of travel. So there's a bunch of changes that we're making to the app, which I'm genuinely super excited about, but I know, and I've said to the team, these are big changes that are going to hurt our business.
I don't think so. I don't
Short term will hurt us.
Yeah, maybe, but I think it sort of is a beacon of light amongst in this industry, because I've used Tinder. I was only a Tinder user, but I just find it can
draining.
become draining. It can become very. I mean, you at the end of it now, when I look back at my life, it was a negative experience.
Okay.
Right. So if you guys are doing this, my goodness, man.
Yeah. And I want us genuinely. And this was kind of part of my thinking, where I was like, look, we're a Muslim marriage app, right? I believe we should have great values that we uphold, and selfishly, I believe we should be the example to the world, right? Fine. Now, I say all of that, and then I'm like, why is our app then a bit too similar to the mainstream in certain ways, right? Why do we still not almost tolerate some of these bad user behaviors? And that's why I thought, actually, we should be leading the way. We should be, in the way our product is built and written and coded and designed and functions, we should be leading the way to other mainstream dating apps where they're like, flipping out, these guys are onto something. That's a way better way of actually helping people find a partner. If you're serious about finding a partner, and it forces you as a company to be true to yourself, what you're about.
Yeah.
So for me, I've always said, in any business that you do, and this is advice to anyone who has any sort of business, really focus on solving the customer problem. Everything else will come.
Exactly.
The metrics will come, the money comes, etc. Don't focus on the money. Mistake. Always a mistake.
Yeah. They always
we even now, we could make so much more money than we are right now, easily. But we choose not to, because I'm like, that's not the right thing to do. Focus on solving the problem,
You have said that women on Muzz, and I'm sure as on other sites as well, they are more serious about marriage when they enter Muzz, right? But for me as a guy, I think men, if a man and a woman are at the same age, just say they are both, say 28, 29, whatever, right? Most likely, and I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, the male would be less serious about marriage, right? That's we tend to take time to get to that part, right? So what age do you think men should be joining Muzz, and what age do you think women should be looking out for to find the right partner on Muzz?
So it's I guess one definition. I don't think necessarily women women are more serious and men are less serious. The definition is slightly different. I think women know better what they want and they're clearer about what they want, and men don't know what they want and hence are unclear about what they want. So it's not that they're not serious; they're just clueless a little bit, right? I think I'm speaking generally for the most part, but definitely that I think women, like I said, they're a lot more, and this is even call it non-Muslims on mainstream dating apps. It's nearly always the woman are like, I wanted a serious relationship, and the guy just whatever wants to hook up. And to their frustration, like you said, they're on Tinder or whatever. So there's 2 ways I look at it. I think there's definitely a trend, let's say in the West, at least, of people meeting and marrying later. Why? Because it's expensive. It's expensive to buy a flat. It's expensive to have kids. They want to be financially secure. They do the education. They do a master's. All these things happen, and then they get to 27, 28. Actually, even in London, you can't even afford a house by 28, right? But anyway, they're getting later and later, and they're like, all right, now it's a mad rush. I've got to find someone. Particularly for women, they feel that pressure, and I want kids, and where do I squeeze all that in? And, they have fewer kids and blah, blah, blah. So all this stuff happens. I actually think the opposite. I do think, even Islamically, right? Let's say Islamically, you're meant to marry early. The example is marry sooner. Why? And mainly, it sounds crude or it sounds simplistic, to protect yourself, right? Your younger years, you'll call it the most carefree, the most, experimental. You want to explore the world, etc.
Makes sense.
Let's say to cut to the chase, between a man and a woman, so many things can happen when you're young. So it's better for you to be married and in a halal relationship. Great, knock yourselves out, go crazy, the right way, right? Which is like, Islamically, it's how it should be. So, and I do think there's an element and a stage where, as a couple, you then grow together. And I am a believer in that. We've had a lot of young Muslims getting married on Muzz, 23, 24, right? Amazing. I actually think that's kind of a good thing. The problem is, I do think when you leave it when you get older, yes, you become more demanding, more fussy, more picky. You as a person, you become more set in your ways, no question. You're like, no, I want to live like this. I live like this now, right? Or I want my place to be like this because this is how I am now. Which is sometimes can actually cause more of a problem, and it makes you more difficult. I think there's a website online, I think it's in the States, I've forgotten the URL, but basically you put in roughly what you're after. So for example, and it's mainly geared towards women, basically I think it's a website, but it'll be like, right, I'm looking for a woman, this is like a US website, it goes, I'm looking for, so women will put it in, I'm looking for a guy who's 6'2". He's got to earn X, he's got to have this kind of profession, whatever. And it will literally say, of the population, this is 0.001% of the population. Just to reiterate, how rare is this thing that you're after, right? And
you're
it's
right.
scarily true.
It is made for women.
Exactly, right? So I do think generally, and my advice is, marry sooner. Begin, even to members of my team and everyone I talk, I always tell, start the search sooner, because it's a generational thing. You speak to, let's say my generation or whatever, people have been single a lot longer than they wanted to. They find it difficult. And they're like, I wish I took care of this sooner, like at university or whatever, right? And it's kind of interesting when you see generations between siblings, right? I've definitely seen where you have, a 35-year-old sibling and their younger brother or sister who's 20-something, right? And the 20-somethings look at the older one going, I don't want to be that. I'm going to start now. And that's kind of a good thing. So I do think there'll be a generational thing where we're going to see all this pain and whatever of, call it my generation, and the next one's going to be like, not for me. We learn the lessons. Thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely. Now, let's get into this. This app, Muzz, is a Muslim matchmaking app, right? But of course, being a Muslim matchmaking app, it has suffered criticism.
Of course.
A lot of feedback from people, scholars, clerics and all that. So my question to you is Muzz a halal way of finding one's partner?
So, first thing actually, you're right, we've had criticism, but I have to admit, from my personal perspective, in 10 years, way less criticism than I ever thought.
Yeah.
And I thought about this, I've really reflected on it. Why, right? I actually think the main reason is because the need of this product is too great. You speak to any scholar in the West at least, they'll say, oh, we have a crisis in our community. Young Muslims are not getting married and then they're not staying married, right? And I'm like, well, okay, what did anyone solve anything here? No. Like, no one was solving the problem. The masjids, it sounds bad, but they've really missed a trick in terms of being a part of the community. They're a place you pray, and that's literally it, at least in the UK and in the States. They're not a community centre in the way that they should be, right? Where people go to they get advice, it's really they're connected to their congregation, right? And they help people find their partners, right? There were documentaries in the UK of people going to the masjid to try and find a partner. And, you'd have this old guy with a big file of people. And I still remember this. And he goes, okay, he's going through and he finds, okay, this girl, she's 29. I think she's single. Should we call her? They call her. And she goes, yeah, I got married 5 years ago. Like, why have you even got me in this file, right? Yeah. And it's just, it doesn't work. And it's cringe and it's awkward. How on earth are you going to match this person on personality when it's a person in a file? So I do think like the religious community, I think within reason, have probably accepted that these guys are doing something, because they know, and I've been told by religious figures, they're doing the nikahs for people who've actually got married on Muzz. So many are like, actually, yeah. There's a chaplain I know in the States, and he goes, the single biggest source of weddings that I've done is from people from Muzz. So that's amazing, right? It works. Yeah. So I think the fact that they see the reality of it, great. Like I said, we're not perfect. I'm sure they do hear and see, and I see as well, some of the negative aspects as well. That's for us to try and solve. In terms of the halal factor of it, I think there's a few ways to look at it. Number one, you could, through the most halal means, you could abuse it if you wanted to. So for example, everybody will say, oh yeah, if a mosque made an introduction to a girl and you spoke to them via the mosque, the masjid, that's completely halal. The same token, you could do all of that and be really inappropriate with the girl, right? It's down to you as a person to say, what's my intention here? If you're a guy who's out there to mess about and just pick up girls or whatever, you're not serious, that's on you, and of course you'll be your haram. The key, and this is the key, for us as Muzz, was our stance. If we're a company where we're like, yeah, we tolerate and almost encourage this and turn a blind eye to it, of course that's on me, that's on us. But we're not. If a girl reports and we see it in the chat, this guy's like, I'm not looking to get married, I just want to hook up. We see that, the guy's blocked, we get rid of him. I don't care if they're paying us, I don't care if they've been with us for 2 years, don't care. Block, done. So for us, our stance as a business is, and as a company, is no, we want to be a place for people who are actually looking to get married. And if you're not, go away. So, and the features we designed, mentioned around the privacy aspects. We were the first app of any app for Muslims that you could include a chaperone, because I came up with that feature way back in 2014. I was like, hold up. I know there's an Islamic principle where if a guy and a girl are talking, there should be a third party present, right?
A wali.
A wali, right?
Yeah.
So that's it's an Islamic principle. And I thought, how can I integrate this with technology? So I came up with the idea of how to integrate it, and we built it. Other people have copied us since then, right? That's one thing. Another thing,
But I think on Muzz it's free, right?
It's free. Yeah.
Unlike others who are charging for that.
Others can exactly that. For us, it's free because I'm like, no, it's it's used by a minority of people, but they've told us if it wasn't there, I wouldn't use your platform. Amazing, right? Another thing we were the first to do, and it's kind of really interesting because now mainstream dating apps have actually copied this to an extent. We were the first where you agree an oath before you use the platform. So when you sign up, literally it will say in the name of God, and you say, I promise I'm going to use this properly and I'm serious, and if I'm not, my account will be blocked. I agree, and it has your name there. Now, maybe most people just go whatever and just press continue. I don't care. Again, it goes back to that intent thing. It's a reminder where they're like, ooh, yeah, that behavior's not cool on here. I'm going to be a bit more mindful. And again, like I said, you can't force people down these roads. You've just got to provide the right levels of encouragement. And for me, it's kind of nice that some of the things that we've done and designed have been copied by others. Go for it. That's great.
Now, interestingly, you talk about that because I think another problem with the online dating world is that the reputation that the apps have, and I'm talking about everyone, the entire industry, and together with the users. So can a Muslim single use this app without compromising their reputation within the community, even though they have halal intent, if you will?
I think so, yes. I think what's changing for the better is that the reputation of apps and the success of apps in helping people get married is only getting better. For us as a company, it's a great tailwind, right? That culturally it's becoming more acceptable. And I know that because now we have more couples reaching out to us saying, yeah, we're happy to share our story. We met on Muzz. What's the problem? Whereas before, 10 years ago, whatever, people are like, no, don't tell anyone. They used to tell me and say, can you keep it quiet? Whereas now we have couples who are like, yeah, we're happy to film with you guys. We'll put it on social media, whatever. We want more people to know that we met on your platform. Right? That's an amazing thing. And so again, and they've reiterated, look, if you're both serious, the guy and girl, you'll find each other and you'll get married and it'll work for you, which is amazing, right? So I do think a lot of it comes down to you as an individual, to the platform of what it tolerates and encourages and discourages. And then also, they're seeing the real world end result, right? You do all of that, you behave well, you're serious, you know what you're looking for, that's what you get.
Yeah. Now, and another thing, and I just want you to address this because these are the main criticisms that come to online dating apps, right? Now, in Islam, again, correct me if I'm wrong, being a non-Muslim, talking to a Muslim, there are three aspects, which is the physical, the badan, the akal, the mind, and of course, spiritual.
Yes.
If I'm right? Yes, which is called the ruh, right?
Yes.
Now, one of the criticism is that online dating apps such as Muzz may be guilty of promoting only the physical. So in your app or in a user experience, are the other two aspects, and I say this because I was listening to someone who said that in Islam, these three aspects need to be satisfied in order for you to have a happy marriage. Yes. So are these two aspects also entertained?
So on you're nearly there actually. So your research was good. So it said, and there's a hadith I was saying. So the Prophet peace be upon him said that a man should marry a woman for four things. Now this is going to put me on the spot. Her beauty, which was one. Her deen, her faith, her wealth, and her lineage. They're the four things, right? So lineage and culture, effectively, if you come from a particular background, you'll have better compatibility with someone of the same background. If you're, middle class, you'll probably get on better with a middle class person. Nothing wrong with that. It's because compatibility, of course, better success. Faith, because that's the foundation, and that's the strongest. That was given as the strongest reason to marry a woman, right, or to choose a woman, because faith cuts through everything. Wealth, because equally that's important. There's an expectation of quality of life from what the woman would expect and what you're able to provide. And beauty was last, but it's on there. Again, because it's a valid reason why you should get with someone, right? And it's last because, as we know, beauty doesn't last, whereas faith and character does. And that's the person you end up marrying. And I'll tell you, when you get with someone, you'll be amazed at how quickly you start looking, the looks and all of that, you start looking beyond it so quickly, it's scary, right? So for all the people chasing, really attractive, I'm just saying from a male perspective, really attractive women, etc. Great, but once you're with that person, you'll see it'll be their character. It's how they talk to you, how they talk to your family and your mother and all that. They're the stuff where you're like, either I really love this woman, or my God, I can't wait to get away from this woman, right?
Looks do not matter.
Looks do not, right? And that's the thing. So when you mention like, how do we help you? I guess along those 4 lines, I just think we do a not bad job, right? So number 1, okay, the looks part, fine. There's photos, you can see the photos, you can do a video call, you got all that. The second bit is the faith bit. We're very upfront on our app about you describing your faith. We say, like, do you drink, do you smoke? But then equally we say, how religious would you say you are, right? And it's totally subjective, but that's by design. I'm very practicing. No, I'm just practicing. I'm not practicing at all. You can describe yourself however you feel. Then we also go, how often do you pray? Do you pray all the time? Do you pray sometimes? Do you not pray? Because equally, I know and we know, there are people on our platform who are like, you know what, I'm Muslim, I identify as a Muslim, but I don't pray. And I'm looking for someone else who's the same, but doesn't pray either. And that's cool. Because what I don't want to do is put off a Muslim for marrying another Muslim, right? I don't want anyone to feel, oh my God, this platform is only for religious people, and I don't pray, I don't feel religious enough, therefore it's not for me. So for me, the religious lines, I think, we definitely describe along that. Now, in terms of, call it wealth, you would probably argue that comes under, to a degree, profession, education, which is all right at the top of your profile. Why? Because it is a key trigger of, why people like each other, to be honest, right? It's a key factor. It's one of the most important things. Lineage is a trickier one, because that's only when you really get to know someone, when you actually speak to them, etc. So I think we do a pretty good job on the first 3, to be honest.
You do,
and like I said, I always say when people either say good or bad things about Muzz, I always say, look, or sometimes people say, oh, you know what, I hate your app. And I go, okay, let's be clear. Do you hate the app, or was it a person you met? Oh, yeah, it was this guy I was talking to. So it's like, all right, it's not the app, it was a person, wasn't it? And nearly always, it was because of an interaction with a person, right? That they didn't go the way they wanted, and hence they didn't like it. So for me, it's always getting to the heart of, all right, yes, intent, important. Yes, if you know the 4 things that you're looking for, doing all that. And then lastly, getting to the point with the person of, all right, these 4 things are important, let's dig into them. Let's see our compatibility and go from there.
Yeah. Speaking of which, you are now you have been in Malaysia for a while, but now you're actively here.
Yeah.
So how has Malaysia responded to Muzz?
Really well. Well. So we, like you mentioned, so from day one, we were global, always, right? We, on the app stores, we didn't restrict it by country. We just said, whoever wants to download it, download it. The beauty of Muzz is wherever you are in the world, because we're showing you, we get your GPS, so we know where you are. Because we know where you are, we will show other people who are nearby. So whether you're in a village in Indonesia somewhere, or you're in a big city like KL, we'll find people near you who hopefully are what you're looking for, ideally. We went, pretty much about a year and a half ago, as a business, we kind of were looking at what's the future here. And we kind of went from startup to scale up, right? And what did that mean? It meant effectively doubling the size of our team, more than doubling it, to be honest. We went from 45 people to now 150 people pretty much in the space of a year. We really almost rebuilt our entire marketing team with a view to how do we scale up, right? We equally did one thing, which was figuring out, of all the countries in the world, what are the countries that we care about? Because what you don't want to do is spread yourself too thin. Muslims are everywhere, great, but we've got to figure out, well, these are the countries where I can spend in, and I should spend in, and I should build a team. So, Malaysia was one of the countries, stand out, right? It's a very progressive, very friendly country. They love Muzz. Even organically, and I mentioned, before we even did any marketing here, we had more women on the platform from Malaysia than men, right? In Malaysia, which for most countries, we have more men than women. Yeah. So it's such an same with Indonesia, such an outlier. Like, women feel really comfortable on Muzz. They love it. I'm not even making this up. This is in the data. So we have this, not even a problem, but we have this weird situation where we're like, how do we get more men on the platform? Which in every other country, it's how do I get more women? So it's so different. The thing that's great, and you navigate in places like Malaysia, Indonesia. No doubt there is I don't say it's almost an educational class system, if you will. The educated want to get with the educated, which is fair. Same in the West, but it's more pronounced here. And for us, it's trying to navigate that. What are the little tweaks and quirks of Malaysia, of Indonesia, of some of these other countries, whereby we need to make changes to the app to just better support them.
Now, the whole thing about Muslim dating apps is that, of course, being in Malaysia, I could be wrong in saying this, but from what I see is that the Muslim community is very guided by the mosque,
Yes.
clerics and all these scholars, and also they are sort of dictated by those people, what they say and all that stuff. But when and also their parents and all that. So when it comes to parents and families in terms of online dating, should their approval be required or a factor in deciding to come on Muzz?
I think it's nice. Is a short answer. Like I always say, and I always coach people, like don't go on Muzz in secret. Like let's say you're the kid in the family and you're looking. Tell your parents, look, I'm serious. I want to find someone. Usually we have the opposite. We have parents coming to us saying, can you help us find someone for our kids? And they don't understand how the app works, and we're like, just tell your kid to download the app, right? They'll take it from there. So we actually coach people, like, get your family on board. We're actually looking at how we can better integrate parents and family into your app. More than it is now, right? We have the chaperone or the wali that we mentioned, but there's so much more we want to do, and we've already designed some stuff which I'm actually quite excited about that we're going to start working on. But I always say do it with the consent of your parents, get them involved, let them know that you're on this platform, number one, whether you're the son or the daughter, right? It's the same applies. And equally, and like I say, use the app, use the platform to get to know people, but then quite quickly involve family on both sides. Because I especially think for girls, when you get to know a guy, the moment you involve family means the guy has to be at least fairly serious, because he's not going to get his mum involved and all this kind of stuff if he's out there to mess about, right? So it's actually a good indicator of how serious the guy is, without, you don't want the first conversation to be, hey, can I speak to your mum? That might be a bit heavy, right? But if you're
Why is your mum here?
Yeah, exactly, right, exactly. Is that an echo? But definitely in the early conversation, you want to figure out, do I like this guy? Are we aligned along those particular things? Do I like his personality? Do we get on? Do I think he's serious? If all of that's then say, great. How do we get families involved? Maybe mums talk, whatever. But you can figure those steps out.
The whole thing about matchmaking, and I want to highlight this because Muzz is not a dating app, it's a matchmaking app, right? That's very important to say. But matchmaking is there across every religion, every culture. Indians, we are notorious for this. Huge. But I was reading up a bit about among Muslims, matchmaking is also a big deal. Even on your website, you talk about say goodbye to nosy aunties and all that kind of stuff, right? What's the difference between traditional matchmaking and the Muzz app experience?
So I think probably the simplest way I can describe it is that apps empower you as the individual to find a partner, right? Here's how it works, and this is why everyone hates it. You almost have literally a CV, biodata as they call it, right? You would almost have a CV that looks like your normal CV. That gets handed around and passed around now in random WhatsApp groups. Your data is flying around everywhere to God knows who. And you have these aunties, these rich aunties, who almost get paid if they find a success, if they find a match, right? So they're incentivized almost to just give you a body. They don't care, right? No one in there is looking at, what's your values in life and what's your personality like? And
what's your ambition?
What's your ambition? None of that. It's almost, yes, she's got a pulse. And by the way, she's happy to...
This guy has a pulse too.
Yeah, literally, yeah. You have a pulse, he has a pulse, great, what a match.
Why don't we get married?
Yeah, exactly, right? And that's almost the way it is, unfortunately. Flip side is, and I'll talk about this, women have they're treated quite poorly in this Rishta matchmaking process. And why? Number one, if you're a girl and you're not that pretty, or maybe you're not slim, or you're not fair, unfortunately they get put down a lot because of that. Matchmakers almost are like, I've got this burden, I've got to find this woman. How am I gonna find her someone, right? Like she's overweight and blah, 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 blah. It's really, for a lot of women, and they've told us it's a really negative, toxic, made them feel very worthless and insecure about their looks, etc. When they were in this process, they hated it. Again, what do they want to do? They want to be empowered to find a partner in their own right. And, along those lines, we did, we made a TV ad in Pakistan that went live there, and it went viral. We've had, I think now 80 million people have seen it. It's crazy. And it was such a good ad, and it literally, even though I worked on the ad with the team and we worked on the script and the whole thing, I remember watching the final edit and I still got goosebumps, and I've probably seen it 10 times. And literally, we didn't talk about Muzz, we didn't talk about the app. All we talked about was this experience of women in this process and how pretty horrible it is, to be honest. And then we had a guy just reminding everyone that, look, our daughters are precious, and they should have a say in this whole process, right? We shouldn't treat them like this. They're not an object. It's literally it's a simple message. But my God, we had so many women messaging us going, thank you guys for speaking about this, because I've been in that. I was that woman, which is honestly so amazing to see.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, another thing that I think people would be of concern if they wanted to sign up for Muzz is definitely the entire concept of Islamic dating,
Yes.
or matchmaking, where you have to prioritize values such as modesty, privacy, and all that. Can you actually say that Muzz does not promote behavior that contradicts these principles?
Yes. Look, the way we've no doubt, and I won't pretend to say Muzz isn't a modern platform, and to some traditional views, you would probably say it's pushing the edge a little bit. No question. I think whenever you do anything new, undoubtedly it makes a few people uncomfortable. Equally, whether we like it or not, online is a platform, right? This is the direction of the world, right? Whether we like it or not. You can be an old school person who goes, no, you should only be in person, etc. Online's here to stay. So it's on us, even as Muslims, technology comes, it's on us to figure out, how do I use this technology well, right? How do I use it for the better, for what aim, right? Nothing's perfect. Everything has good points and bad points. And you got to hope that the good points outweigh the bad points, right? And that's just a normal Islamic principle in anything, You weigh up the good and bad and you make a call on overall net, is this more beneficial or not? For Muzz, no question, it's more beneficial. I look at the success stories. I look at people who have met good people, whether it's not worked out or whatever, but they're like, no, there were decent guys that I would recommend. It just didn't work out for me, and that's great. And that's fine. So for us, I definitely say the way we've built it, the way we designed it, some of the changes that I talked about in terms of, I guess, limiting some of the more negative behaviors, for us shows that, look, we're serious about solving this real problem. And we design the app, and even we remind ourselves, some of the design techniques, we're like, we don't want to do that because that's more casual dating and that's not a good behavior. We want to encourage good behaviors.
But I completely agree what you're saying, because I find it weird when I was doing my research for this. I find the criticism that comes towards online dating and apps such as Muzz and all that quite unwarranted, because we are living in those times where, the phone has become the middleman of everything, right? When we watch a concert, we no longer just watch it. We have to record it for some reason. I don't get it.
We don't live in the moment. It's really annoying.
Yeah, it's annoying. It's annoying for me. I hate my phone.
And no one ever watches those videos back.
No, yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. It's like people who record fireworks. Can anyone who recorded fireworks? Did you ever look at that firework video? Never. I don't get it.
Go back, man. I have to watch that video of fireworks. Yeah. But is this a simple case of popular culture just moving ahead of traditional values?
Yes, to a degree. So, and I think twofold. Look, if the need wasn't great, nobody would use it, right? If the traditional means, if people were like, oh, it's easy to find someone and get married, what's your problem? If that was all easy, people would be. But it's clearly not. And for a whole host of reasons. Like I mentioned, let's say in the West, and this is happening not just in the West, it's happening in the East, etc. People are getting married later because a whole demographic and economic shifts are happening, right? That yes, the cost of living is going up. Yes, people want to be more independent in their life. They want to travel. They want to do all these things before they get married and have kids, right? Because this is the new world now. You can. It sounds mad, 30, 40 years ago, my parents have been to Pakistan and that's it. That's the only country they've ever been to, literally. And I'm 40. I've lost track of how many countries I've been to, right? It's such a dramatic change. And you have people who want to live their life. They want to live their best life and then go, right now I'm ready to get married, right? I mentioned the expense. On top of all that, there's a pressure of you've got to have a flat or accommodate. If you're going to marry my daughter, you better have a place for her to stay. That's expensive now. So the guy's like, oh my God, I've got to work even longer to afford this now. So he's not going to get married till later. Girls want to be more independent. They want to have their own money, which is all good. Some would say, is it all good, right? Some would say, is this more harmful than not? Even now you have in the States, you have all these women now on TikTok saying, like, what was wrong with the traditional life of I just want to look after my husband and make him dinner and I don't want to work. Who sold me this dream of me working, right? And the whole thing, you remember in the West it was you can have it all, especially to women. Yeah. You can have it all, right? And now we're seeing the problem of some of that, right? The danger is you can't. I really genuinely, I feel. I don't know if I can say it. Not that I feel sorry for women, but I kind of do feel sorry for women. They're put under the pressure of you can have it all, yet they have it all by you have all the work. It's not like the man suddenly said, "Yeah, I'm going to take increased responsibility for kids and their upbringing." No. She had the job and she has all the kids and the house stuff and all that. She got it all. Yeah. You got it all. Yeah. So, and I feel bad that it hasn't been more equitable, right? And will it ever? I don't know. So I do think there's a shift going on. And like I say, I only think apps are popular because there's a convenience, no doubt. I mean, look what phones allow you to do. They allow you to order food from your sofa. for better or worse, right? Some would say worse because you're just going to get fat on your sofa, right? But there's a convenience aspect. And same with this, right? Some would say you're just ordering a bride on an app. Well, I think it's a bit simplistic, but I do think, no, there's a convenience in, great, I now have access to a bigger pool of people.
Yeah.
One amazing thing, actually, and this is what I think apps allow for. The Ummah, right? This community of Muslims, for example, we're all brothers and sisters. We're all from different cultures, backgrounds, traditions. If it wasn't for apps, most people would marry the same culture, right? So if you're Malaysian here, you probably marry another Malaysian, right? Because you don't know a French person, do you? How are you going to know a French person? The power of online, the power of what it can do is connect you globally to people of completely different backgrounds. And there's two kind of interesting facts that still blow my mind. When we looked at all the conversations and the matches happening on Muzz, half were between people of different countries. So they literally talked to someone in a different country, half. And the second one was more than half were between different people of different ethnic backgrounds, right? So people are like, well, I don't care. And more so, if you look at the ethnic background split, younger Muslims are way more open to marrying someone of a different ethnic background. Older Muslims are way more rigid in terms of, no, they've got to be the same. So I'm Pakistani, they've got to be Pakistani, right? That shift is happening. And younger Muslims are like, well, as long as they're Muslim, what's your problem? And I don't really care where they are because, like I said, they travel, they want to experience a new culture, blah, blah, blah. And these shifts are happening. So I do think online and the role of apps fit into some of these changes that are happening. And ultimately, like I said, if it didn't solve, ultimately, if a product doesn't provide value, it won't exist. Right? It's the simplest way you can think about anything, right?
No, interestingly that you talk about this because you talk about shifts.
Yes.
Because as a non-Muslim, I've told my friends now that there's no way I can date in today's world. I can't date in today's world, right? I can't stand.
Why not?
Because of wokeness and all these things.
You're old school.
I'm old school. No, it's not that I feel a woman must be in the kitchen. No.
Yeah.
I'm one of the most politically incorrect people you'll ever find.
Okay. Oh,
right?
we'll get on then.
Yeah. I have a dark sense of humor. It
me
takes
too.
a certain type of people.
Me too, yeah.
I've gone on dates. I mean, before I got married, I went on dates whereby, the girl was just offended or something that I said. And I was like,
You could almost be British.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But has that spilled over into Muslim dating?
Good question. Just from anecdotal experience, I don't think so. And why do I not think so? The thing I hear more, unfortunately, is again, I don't know why I'm giving men grief, but here you go. I'm going to give more men, even Muslim men, even more grief.
Support your own kind, man.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I see too much. Muslim men have no game, right? Literally.
Really?
Yeah. So they don't know how to talk. They don't know how to have a conversation with a woman, right? They don't know how to ask X, Y, Z. They don't know how to make her feel good. It's really quite cringe. And this was on my mind a lot because I'm like, why hear this so often, right? What is it? And I came to the conclusion that it's because, we have this segregated upbringing, and then you're under pressure to find someone. If you look at non-Muslims, for example, they date, they go out with with each other, right? They live with each other before they get married, right? They have this whole social education, a man with a woman, etc., right? So when it comes to them finding, I'm ready now, I want to get married, they've already clued up on how to talk to a girl. They've already clued up on how to live with someone. Well, you look at Muslims, you don't have any of that. You're thrown into this thing of, right, now I've got to talk to this girl. And then you get married, I've got to live with this girl. This is the first girl I've ever lived with, right? I'm not saying the non-Muslim way is better, by the way. I'm still, obviously in Islam we have certain values and so be it. But I do think there's value in some of those, that additional social education that they get that we don't get. And the problem is, equally, we don't talk about it. So even the concept of you as a Muslim saying to your parents, for example, I'm talking to this girl, I'm getting to know her for the sake of marriage. What should I ask? I guarantee most people won't be comfortable talking to their parents like that, right? And it's just not a done thing. And that's almost to our detriment because they're left to their own devices. If you look at religious figures, your imams, the masjids, etc., they're old people that unfortunately, mostly old people, but unfortunately they're not very relatable to young people.
Yeah.
Do young people feel they can go to their imam and say, I have this situation that I'm talking to this girl and I'm worried about X, Y, Z, and can you give me some advice? No, and I wish they did. They wish they did. Because we've seen firsthand, because our customers are asking us for advice on stuff, and I'm like, whoa, we're the port of call here. So, on our YouTube channels and our blogs, we've actually done a lot of, we speak to mental health experts, sexual health experts, family experts, relationship experts. We speak to all these so that people have some sort of education around some of this. We built a social network recently. We're launching it in Malaysia next year.
Yeah, Muzz Social.
Muzz Social, right? And the goal for that, and it's happening here in the UK, US, Canada, where we've launched it already. You have, particularly women, asking quite sensitive questions about different situations and getting advice from people that they're not getting anywhere else. And that's sad but powerful, right? It's sad that they don't have that level of support, but it's great to see that finally they have some space to get some of this advice, right? So I do think, and ultimately why I think this, call it wokeness aspect, I think the flip side is in some ways we're still a bit old school. And to a degree, a lot of women are like, well, okay, well, that's not the life that I want. So it's very rigid in terms of, no, she must wear a scarf and she must stay at home. And some men are like that. Equally, there's some women who are like, yeah, that's cool, it works for me.
Are gender roles defined among the Muslim community?
I'd say it is yes to it. I would say even Islamically, yes, and culturally, yes. Are things changing? No doubt. Is that for the better? Unproven. You would argue in the West, in definitely plenty of situations where some would say, no, it's not been that great. Like this merging of gender roles, it's led to a mess, right? That nobody knows quite where they stand. What is, if you look
I could be anything if I want.
Anything, yeah. Right? And equally at home, it's like, well, who does what here? Yeah. And there are some, relationships where it does work because they both chip in and great. But there's others where, whether you like it or not, women give birth to kids. And kids need the mum way more than they need the dad, right? Yeah. Reality, that's just fact. Yeah. So the woman will always have a higher burden when kids are involved. So then it's like, great, okay, you as a dad, well, what's your role in all of this, right? Do you just stand around or what? And no doubt, so, even Islamically, in Islam, the man is the provider. These are defined. Man is the provider. The woman is the keeper of the home. That doesn't mean the woman doesn't work. In the best example, the Prophet's wife, she, peace be upon him, she proposed to him.
Yeah.
Number one.
Her first wife.
His first wife. She proposed to him. She was a very successful businesswoman, right?
Yeah.
He worked for her. Like it's literally on a plate. And so that's the crazy thing, that we get caught up in culture which doesn't tally up with the Islamic teachings and Islamic examples. So for us, if anything, we should be going back to the prophetic examples, going, why are we saying that women need to stay at home? Because that wasn't the case. There's definitely guidance around X, Y, Z, but that's clearly not the case, right? Women can have a business. The key is they have a certain lifestyle, fine. There's certain responsibilities that are on them, and there's certain responsibilities on the man as well. And as long as both husband and wife fulfill their rights and equally the responsibilities, great. And what Islam provides is a framework for both of that. I think that what you're having now is this, you can have it all life, which means ultimately you get two people who are unhappy, really, because no one knows where they stand, and there's a blurring of what's my rights and responsibilities and what's yours.
Now, in your past interviews, you have also spoken, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I read in one of the articles, interviews that they did on you, where you talked about your plans for the future. So what's Muzz's plans for the future, man?
Huge plans, yeah.
Tell me.
So number one, like I said, so if I look at, call it the marriage app, the app that at present Muzz as it is, no doubt my big plan, like I said, we have this Muzz 5, right? Which is, I think, a big rethink of what apps are, especially dating apps. So for me, it's solving it in a way where we are the example to the rest of the sector of, this is how you get people married, right? You're serious about helping people in a relationship or get into a relationship, this is what you need to do, or this is how our approach. And actually tackling some of the negative aspects of online dating, I say that. So that's number one. The second bit, look, our mission, like I said, was transforming how Muslims meet and marry. Now, on the marriage side, more than 500,000 people have actually got married on Muzz. The app is in 15 languages now. We're global. We're everywhere. And for us, it's being a truly global brand. There's 2 billion Muslims around the world, right? I'd love to get 1 billion of them on Muzz, right? But that's huge. So that's the first bit. The second bit is actually the transforming how Muslims meet, right? It's this first part. And this is where Muzz Social, our social network, comes in. I had this more than 5 years ago. One of my ideas was, I want it to be much broader than just helping you find a partner, right? I want this to be a tool where we bring this global Muslim community together, where we can be helpful to each other, where we give strength to each other, where we help people of different backgrounds, of different areas, etc., connect, learn, share from each other. It's so powerful. I tell you, it's such an edge. I know you're non-Muslim, I'm a Muslim, but even in your community, you'll have the same thing. It's such an edge belonging to a community, right? And I actually think in countries like this, actually, in Malaysia and in, let's say, a Muslim country, it's almost implicit that you belong to a community. Yeah. For us as Muslims in the West, my God, you value that so much more because everyone's a stranger, right? No one belongs to anyone. And the moment you see a Muslim, you're like, oh my God, like my friend, you know what I mean? It's you realize the value of that just instant bond, right? That the fact that you're both Muslim, there's a grounding there. Especially in the States. I was in the States before this trip. Now, in the States, there's 4 million Muslims, and they're spread out over a huge landmass. right? And it's really hard. It's hard for them to meet each other, really hard. But when they do, it's such an immediate bond, right? And I think that's quite powerful. So, you know, for us with Muzz Social, what was the goal? The goal was, how can I bring this community together and provide, for us, a social network that provides actual value, right? All social networks, most of them out there, there's a lot of noise, a lot of time wasting, a lot of inappropriate content, right? So for us, it's, right, how do we be a better example of what social media should be about? How can we be a better example? And again, some people say if social media is a waste of time, you shouldn't do any of it. The flip side is, I'm like, well, look, clearly social media is here to stay. It's had a huge impact on all our lives. All right, well, clearly, us as Muslims, we should have our own. We should have our own voice, our own platform, and we should be able to determine or provide a space that is actually more healthy, more useful, more valuable to us. And that's some of the principles that we're employing with Muzz Social. So for me, my dream is, can we be the world's biggest, I would just say, Muslim app, full stop, Muslim community app? Whether that's for finding a partner or it's for actually just connecting as friends, as communities, etc. And that's super powerful if we can do it. You know, you look at social media now, like you look at Twitter, X, whatever, like the content on there, a lot of it is pure inappropriate now. Same with Facebook, to be honest, right? It's just like obscene, and I don't know where that's come from, right? Number one.
TikTok and all that.
TikTok and all that. It's the same thing, right? Why? Because again, when you have social media, which is ultimately engagement based, right? That is the algorithm. You descend to base level engagement. Of course you do, right? Guys, unfortunately, will look at dancing girl videos, right? And the more dancing girl videos, the more time you're spending on, which means the more ads they can sell. You know, for us, I'll tell you a good example, and again, this is a reminder of our principles. We launched Muzz Social in the UK, US, Canada, Australia. And it was a very simple engagement algorithm, really simple. Like it's less than half a page of pseudocode, right? And then we noticed in the first few weeks, where a lot of toxic, negative content was getting seen the most. Of course, because it's human nature. Negative content, you'll interact more because you're more fired up. And it instills bad feelings. But however, it means you're on the platform more, you're commenting more, you're interacting more. So from a metric point of view, we were doing great. From a is this good point of view, we were doing poorly. And I said, this is not what we're about. So we rewrote the algorithm. Again, it's still simple, but we rewrote it. Immediately we made that change, all of our metrics halved, immediately. Now, any other platform would be like, flipping out, that's too much. We're gonna have to go back. For us, we're like, no, this is baseline now. We're gonna have to work from here. I don't want our platform to be just a useless place with no value, which is just a waste of time. Doesn't make sense. I want to make sure it's valuable, useful to people, and hopefully something more positive. This is hard. I'm not even going to pretend it's easy. It's one of the hardest things anyone can do, but I'll give it a go.
Nice, man. I like the fact that your business has values and you really stick to it. That's
Super
very unheard of nowadays.
Yeah. Look, you know, when was it? 2018. You know, Match Group, who own Tinder, they tried to buy us 4 times, 15 mil, 20 mil, 25, and 35 was the final. I just said no in the end because something didn't feel right. I was like, I don't think I should go ahead with any of this. Thank God I didn't. Fun story. They then sued us afterwards. There you go.
To change the name, right?
Hence we changed the name and all of that drama. But for us, it was values, right? It was like what we're about and who are we getting into bed with, right? And for me, on a personal level, it just didn't feel that was the right thing to do. And so yeah, that puts the onus on us as a business of how we operate.
Now, I want to bring this all back to you.
Yeah.
When you're talking about all this, right? It's like there's a big question mark to me that I can't answer. You were from the finance line,
yes.
right? You were you're a trader and all this. And then you go set up a matchmaking app, which is doing very well. It's the biggest right now. I think 12 million, it is the biggest, right? Yeah. But when you talk to me, there is a focus on a lot of focus on customer behavior, consumer experience, and all that kind of stuff. But one question I cannot answer is, why did you make that leap from finance into matchmaking? There must be a reason. There must be a flash of genius, right?
I wish it was that obvious. It sounds strange, but no.
Was it just because you saw the industry? Look, this is $1 trillion market.
No, I wish I had that level of foresight. No, and you know, even when I set this up, it's kind of weird. Even now, if I could not, I even cannot imagine what does us being huge mean. I still weirdly think we're small. I genuinely do, right? I probably always will till the day I'm dead, right? So it wasn't that I was like, oh my God, it's a huge market. Not at all. The Muslim market was so unproven. Everyone assumed Muslims don't pay for anything, right? The whole thing was a big risk, no question. It literally, like I said, it started off as a side project purely because I literally thought even I could do better than that. That's how it started as a website. And then the app idea was purely because it seemed obvious that it should be an app. And then when I knew I wanted to quit my job and do something, it kind of seemed obvious that this should be the thing. Like I say, it's kind of like you look back and it all seems obvious, right? As ever, the dots connect when you look backwards, right? When I was in it, by no means, it was almost like I'm going to give this a go and let's see how it goes. And the fact is, I had no job, I had no money coming in for 2 years. My God, I had to work hard to make sure that this thing was going to be some form of success. I was very lucky that over time, the success started coming, right? Where I'm like, all right, clearly there seems to be a business in this thing. And thankfully, over a period of time, it's just grown. But if I look at, even now, we're 10 years old, and I tell the team, there's no one single thing I can point to that like got this party started and really ramped up our metrics. Nothing. It's literally hard work every day has got us to where we are now. And so that's the thing I always remind myself. And, thankfully now, we're a very successful business. We're doing really well. We're growing. We're hitting record numbers. We're profitable as a business. Cannot complain. I'm very lucky. Look, this is such a great intersection for me. I love tech. I love business. I'm a practicing Muslim. This leaves a positive legacy. Like, I'm so lucky. This is what I do for a living. How lucky am I?
It's crazy, right? If you're the founder of something and you know that your invention inspired 500,000 marriages.
It's crazy. It is crazy.
I can't imagine that.
I get stopped in the street. People are like, oh my God, we met on your app. I was in Dallas a week ago. It was a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And I was going to they have a bazaar, like a convention. I literally hadn't even entered, and 4 couples in that little walk. Oh my God, we met on your app. Here's my wife, blah, blah, blah. We have a little one. It's crazy.
That's beautiful, man.
It's amazing. Honestly, it's amazing. And and that was just my God, it was a 5-minute walk. Yeah. And it's amazing. And thankfully, I was wearing my Muzz t-shirt, so that always helps. Yeah. But like,
you should have won this one.
There you go. See, people will stop you in the street soon.
Hey, I met you, man. Yeah, it's my app. Yeah.
Take the credit.
Yeah. Now, last but not least, I mean, let's bring this to a close. But it's been really fun talking to you, and I too love business. I love all this, and just seeing your success is just
such an interesting. I'll tell you one thing. When we're hiring people, right, especially we're hiring engineers, and engineers are expensive, and some of them, I always tell them, look, you can go and work at a fintech. You'll probably get paid more, because I can't pay fintech salaries. But I'm like, you and I know that'll be boring as hell. Like here, our product is interesting. It's an interesting problem. It's interesting seeing people use it. It's a very personal, realistic, tangible problem that we're trying to solve. And the great thing is you can see the results at the end of it, like literally. So it's a great place to be, to work in. It's a super interesting sector. It's still hard though, because it's messy, because humans are messy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Now, I just want to leave on this note. You are in Malaysia now.
Yes.
And now I think I read in your press kit that there were also pictures of Malaysian couples who have met and all that.
Yes.
So expect to be stopped on the street as
Oh,
well.
for sure. Yes. Keep that t-shirt.
But what's your message or to potential, future app downloaders and app users of Muzz? What can they experience and what can they get from your app?
Yeah. So I think number one, look, I always say approach it with an open mind. Number one. I said number two, set your intentions right. If you're not seriously and you're not ready to get married, don't download it. Like, go somewhere else. It's all good. Save your sanity. Download a game. Who knows, right? Yeah. So when you're in the right frame of mind, you're like, I'm actually looking for a partner, and I'm serious, and I think I know what I'm looking for. Begin. One good thing, actually, you might be like, I'm serious, but I don't fully know what I'm looking for. That's still good, because what we found and we've heard, especially from young Muslims, is they download Muzz and they tell me, I actually learned a lot about myself. In terms of meeting people and being in certain situations. And equally, what I thought I was looking for, I realized was actually not the right thing. And I'm actually looking for this other thing now. They've gone on a bit of a social education by meeting people and figuring out this is good, this is bad, this is not what I'm looking for, this is what I'm looking for. So go on that journey. Like, just think of it on a pure probability and odds perspective. Let's say you're a guy or a girl. Do you really think the very first guy or girl that you meet and get to know is the one you're going to marry, right? Like, on a probability basis, that's pretty low for that to be a success. And most likely, actually, I'm reading a book on the flight here, and he talks about it's an optimization problem. Sounds cheesy, but he says in the dating, he actually related it to parking when you're trying to find a parking spot, but it kind of applies to dating, of how many dates should you go on before you decide to lock it in and make a decision. And there's a rule of, I think 37% is the number. So what you want to do, you're in an explore phase for the first 37%, or you're just like scoping the market out. You're just meeting people, you're not committing. Then you've got enough information, enough data to go, right, the next person I meet that hits the criteria, lock it in. Make a decision and go for it. Same with parking, right? It's kind of like, let's say I'm trying to get to a concert venue. Now, the closer I get, the fewer parking spots there's going to be. So I'm like, all right, but equally, I don't want to walk all the way. So it's how far do I drive before I decide, all right, you know what, I'm gonna make a decision. I'm gonna park here and walk the rest, knowing probably there isn't a space that's free closer. You know, so it's a similar kind of problem. It's the golden number, right? And it's the same thing. So I do think make sure you are serious. Make sure you're ready for it. What can you expect? Look, hopefully, inshallah, you meet good people and go out. I always say, be nice to each other, right? There's a lot of people who've been single who are, it's tough. It's tough being single. It's tough as a Muslim being single and under pressure to find someone. Be nice to each other. Help each other out. Don't ghost people, you know? As ever, online and offline, treat others the way you would like to be treated. Simplest way I can describe it.
Perfect, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, hope you had fun. I mean, I've had fun and really researching about this app. And I wish we had a version of this app for non-Muslims.
You know what? So many of my team have asked the same. Can you white label it, Shaz? Because it's a great app. So you never know. Never say never.
You should, because I think it would. For non-Muslims, I think there's not much options.
Yeah. We'll call it Buzz.
Or maybe Infidel. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, Coffee Essential.
Coffee Essential. Yeah. But thank you again, man. Thank you again so much.
Thank
you
you.
so much. Yeah, I know you're busy and you've made your time and it's late. And but thank you for coming on.
No, it's all good. Your hospitality has been great.
Thank you so much, buddy. Thank you. And so for you guys, that's all we have today. So the app is called Muzz. It's for Muslim singles looking to find marriage, or if you want to find your perfect partner, your better half, whatever you call it. Muzz is the app for you. It's safe,
and it's free.
And it's free. There we go. Well, we'll be sharing the links to download the app on all the videos that you see. If you guys have any questions, any queries, please share them and we'll forward it to the Muzz team and they can attend to it. But till next time, guys, take care and remember, download Muzz. See you. Bye.